Well, every Patriots fan's biggest fear so far this season has come true. The New England Patriots suffered their first loss of the season last Sunday, leaving just one undefeated team left in the NFL.
And as the fantasy football playoffs get underway, we will have all your advice and much more coming up on the NESN Football Update.
Welcome to the NESN Football Update. My name is Ashley Allen alongside Michaela Vernava, who's wearing a pretty sweet blazer. Michaela, tell me about that.
Well, thank you, Ashley. This is a shade of panther blue, to be exact, in honor of the only undefeated team left in the NFL. Tough to see the Patriots suffer their first loss of the season, but I have to say, I have believed in Cam Newton and the Panthers before it was cool to believe in them. A lot of fans jumping on the bandwagon now, and rightfully so, because they are looking good.
Well, that is true, Michaela, but one team that isn't looking as good, maybe not good at all, is the Philadelphia Eagles, which are the New England Patriots' next opponent. Let's check in with NESN.com's Doug Kyed, who has the preview on that matchup.
After the Patriots faced their biggest challenge of the season in last week's loss to the Broncos, they have it a little bit easier this week against the Eagles, who have really struggled in recent weeks. They gave up over 40 points in the last 2 weeks, so even without Rob Gronkowski, will probably miss this game, and even if Danny Amendola can't play this week for the Patriots should still have no problem moving the football on the Eagles. The Eagles quarterback, Sam Bradford, is expected back this week. Doesn't really seem to matter who's playing quarterback for the Eagles this season. Both Sam Bradford and Mark Sanchez both having some trouble moving the ball there for the Eagles. So this could be a good chance for the Patriots to kind of regroup, get back on track, beat the Eagles, and then see how they can do moving forward onto those games against the Houston Texans, further down the line against the Jets and Dolphins, which could be a bit more difficult here for the Patriots. Defensive tackle Dominique Easley and linebacker Dante Hightower both are dealing with injuries. Patriots could be without both of those guys on Sunday against the Eagles, so this could be another chance to get some younger and less experienced players worked into the mix. Last week, we saw Darius Fleming fill in for Hightower, so it could be a mix of Jonathan Freeney, Fleming, maybe even John Bostic filling in there at linebacker, defensive tackle. If Easley can't go, probably see rookie Geno Grissom take some of his snaps at defensive tackle on third down in the passing game.
What if the agony of defeat isn't so agonizing after all? What if, in fact, losing a battle really does help you find a new way to win the war? In that case, consider the New England Patriots' loss at Mile High a blessing in disguise. Granted, a loss to a team other than the Broncos would have been more favorable, seeing as the Broncos do pose the biggest threat to the Patriots hanging on to the #1 seed. Nevertheless, the pressure of a perfect season is gone, and now they can go back to simply doing their jobs. Now, I'm not implying that Bill Belichick is going to concede any games from here on out, but I am saying that a weight is lifted. The Patriots are battered on both sides of the ball. Without the undefeated cloud hanging over their heads, there's less of a reason to rush anyone back. Give the key players ample time to recuperate, so they'll be recharged when it's time to fight for all the marbles. After all, at the end of the season, this is all that really matters. At the end of the day, this is all that will be remembered. And at the end of the Brady-Belichick era, this is how we will measure their greatness. When the clock runs out, it doesn't matter if you've won by 1 or by 100. And in fact, the one-score wins, the rallying from behind, those games are the ones that define Belichick's genius and the Patriots' tenacity, not the blowouts. When the season's over, it doesn't matter if your record is flawless or just over 500. What matters is that you make it here. And remember 2014? 12-4 didn't seem so bad to Patriots Nation then. And I know I don't need to remind you about what happened the last time the Patriots went undefeated up until the Super Bowl. If there's one thing Bill Belichick does well, it's improvement. So you can bet the fall to the Broncos will serve as a learning experience. And without the undefeated monkey on his back, maybe Bill will feel freer to experiment with some of his unconventional plays, like he did last year in the regular season with plays that ended up being key in the Patriots' wins in the playoffs. Now, all of that being said, Don Shula's 72 Dolphins do not have a green light to breathe a sigh of relief just yet. There is still an undefeated powerhouse barreling through the NFL. Riverboat Ron, Superman Cam, and the Carolina Panthers are on pace for perfection, and 19-0 is certainly not out of the question. We'll have more on that later in the update, so stick around.
All right, we're here now with NESN.com's fantasy guru, Nick Goss, for his fantasy mailbag. So, Nick, first up, we have David on Facebook who's wondering if it's a good idea to pick up Scott Chandler for 2 weeks.
I would definitely pick up Scott Chandler for 2 weeks. With Gronkowski out, he's going to become the main tight end in the Patriots passing attack. 5 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown against the Broncos. But more importantly, he played 54 snaps. That was a season high, and his 11 targets were 6 more than his previous season high. He also has a favorable matchup against the struggling Eagles pass defense. So if you're in your fantasy playoffs and you have Gronk, he's definitely a good option to replace him.
All right, Nick, so now we have Mike on Twitter, and he's going back and forth between Rivers or Breeze. What do you think?
This is a really tough one. Both have tough matchups this week. I would go with Rivers against the Broncos. Breeze is playing an undefeated Carolina Panthers defense who lead the league in interceptions, and they rank 3rd in sacks. They totally dominated Dallas Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo on Thanksgiving, and I don't see them having too much trouble containing the Saints offense in Week 13.
All right, thanks, Nick.
Michaela Vernava along with Mike Cole. It is hard to believe we're already into December football, but we are, so it's time for some Week 13 power rankings. And Mike, who is rising in the ranks this week?
Team on the rise for me is the Houston Texans. Speaking of rising, Ryan Mallett had problems rising early and shining early, or whatever the saying goes. But since they cut Ryan Mallett for failing to show up to his job, Texans have kind of woken up. They've been a lot better. They've won their last 4 straight. It's coincided with the defense playing a lot better. Defense has allowed 35 points in the last 4 games after allowing 44 in Week 7 to Miami. They're also forcing a lot of turnovers. They've forced 8 turnovers the last 4 weeks. J.J. Watt playing like a monster again. I think this is a team heading the right direction. We're going to get a big test for them, though, in 2 weeks when they take on the Patriots in a game that's been flexed to that Sunday night game. So they're heading the right direction. That's a winnable division, too, but I think the jury is still out a little bit on that Texans team.
Definitely looking a lot better, though. But, Mike, who is on the decline?
Speaking of teams in bad divisions who are going the opposite direction, that would be the New York Giants. The NFC East is a joke, and the Giants could have really all but locked it up on Sunday against the Washington Redskins, and they just totally blew it. It's going to be tough for the Giants, but the silver lining is that division does stink. And does anybody really think that Washington's going to win that division? I don't know.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, is there any movement at the number 1 spot this week?
Yeah, for the first time all season, there's a new number 1. The Carolina Panthers are up there now. It's kind of tough not to put that undefeated team at the top. I still think the Patriots are the better team, but for now, we got to stick with the Panthers. It's kind of tough to ignore an undefeated squad.
Do we get a dab out of you, Mike?
Not a chance.
No? All right. Well, for the full analysis on the power rankings, head over to NESN.com.
The Carolina Panthers are officially the only undefeated team left in the NFL. So the big question now is, can they become the first team since 2007 to have a perfect regular season? All signs point to yes. First of all, the Panthers have Cam Newton. Cam is without a doubt one of, if not the most athletic quarterback in the NFL. Even though his claim to fame isn't his passing game, ranking 28th in the league in completion percentage, his ability to use his legs makes him a lethal threat for any defense. The 26-year-old has scored a rushing touchdown in 7 games this season and has recorded over 70 rushing yards in 5 games. The 6'5", 245-pound quarterback is the leader of the league's 3rd highest scoring offense and is responsible for 27 of his team's 32 total touchdowns this season, which is saying a lot considering he's been working with an average receiving corps, and I'm being nice when I say average. Newton has somehow managed to lead his team to an 11-0 record without star wideout Kelvin Benjamin, who's been out all season with a torn ACL, leaving Greg Olsen as his only viable target. Another reason why the Panthers could run the table in 2015 and become the first team to go undefeated since the 07 Patriots is because of their star-studded defense. With All-Pro linebacker Luke Kuechly anchoring the unit alongside Thomas Davis, defensive tackle Starla Tulale, and K'Wan Short caving in lines, and Josh Norman shutting down the corner, Carolina expects to hold offenses to the teens every single Sunday. The fact that Carolina is one of the most complete teams in the league has led them to their undefeated record so far, but the Panthers' remaining schedule has the potential to carry them the rest of the way to 16-0. Left on the docket are the 4-7 Saints, followed by a home game against the 6-5 Falcons, trips to the 5-6 Giants, and the Falcons again before their finale against the 5-6 Buccaneers. So their chances to do what every NFL team dreams of doing are, well, pretty good. Let's just hope if they do make it all the way, they'll have better luck than the Patriots did in 2007.
I'm Andre Khatchaturian, here to give you a lock and upset for Week 13. For my lock, I actually like the Seattle Seahawks over the Minnesota Vikings. After a tough start to the season, Seattle has righted the ship, winning 4 of their last 5 games, exclamated by a big victory over a tough Steelers offense last week. The Vikings rely heavily on the run, but Seattle is 5th in the league in stopping the run, and they held Pittsburgh to just 4.1 rushing yards per attempt last week. Finally, Russell Wilson's on fire with 8 touchdowns and no picks in his last 2 games. For my upset, I like the Oakland Raiders over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are on fire, but this is a road game against a divisional team. Derek Carr, despite the Raiders' struggles recently, hasn't faltered. Oakland is still averaging 5.8 yards per play, 7th best in football, and they'll look to capitalize against the banged-up Justin Houston. Plus, the Chiefs have to turn the ball over eventually, right? I think the Chiefs slip and fall in the game most people are expecting them to win. Now let's send it to Michaela, who's with Jackson for his pick of the week.
It's time for Jackson's Week 13 predictions. He will be picking between the New York Showdown, New York Giants, or the New York Jets. Jackson, who is it going to be? Ready, Jackson? Who's going to win the game? You picked the Jets? Pick the Jets. Pick the Jets. Pick the Jets.
All right, well, that just about does it for the NESN football update, but we decided to leave you guys with a little something special this week. Check it out.
This is for Cam Newton. This is the dab. NESN style.
Come
on, with a little emphasis.
Flip your hair though.
I don't have hair. Alright, there we
Oh,
go.
everybody's doing it. That's very good.
No, do it again.
Like,
Keep talking all the chitter chatter, all the chitter chatter, all the chitter chatter. It don't matter. Break.